Hi, I'm Lori. I'm going to show you how some small pieces of vinyl are going to make a significant difference in the accuracy of your cutting and sewing. Stay tuned. The first product I'm going to show is Cutting Edge. It's in a new color that is white. On my rulers, it's orange. I have the old one. Let me just show you how that works. So the Cutting Edge is a vinyl that sticks statically to your rulers. And so you place it wherever you need it. I actually keep it on my ruler at all times and move it around as I need to, or I keep it on the bed of my sewing machine on my Sew Steady table. So what it does is you put it on the line that you need to cut. How many times have you needed to cut 25 2.5 inch strips or 25 2 3/4 inch strips, and you cut all but the last couple at the right number? So you cut all of those at 2.5 and the last one at 2 3/4. Now I'm going to be short fabric. I've wasted. And so you want to place this on your ruler. In the center of the line is going to be where you're accurate, and it's got a little bit of creates a little bit of a barrier against your fabric. So you can see that I can now cut, and I know I'm right against the edge. You may want to put it past your fold so that you can be sure that you're 100% straight, and then you can cut. So what it does is it creates a barrier there for your cutting. So I have put it on some of my other rulers. Now this one, if I need to cut a bunch of strips on the 4-inch line, I can just do that. With the rulers from Creative Grids, you can see, I hope you can see, there is a surface that is on the back of the ruler that creates something so that your ruler doesn't slide when you press on it. So when you're cutting, you don't get any movement. The magnetic of this sticks best to the smooth part of your rulers. And so because of that, I cut this just a little bit smaller so that I can still use it. I can use it anywhere on the ruler, but I don't have to worry about it running into this. Now it can go over this. It just doesn't stick quite as well. So the majority of it you want to try to have on the smooth part of the ruler. If you watch Velma's video, she uses Invisigrip. I have Invisigrip on this ruler, sticks wonderfully. Again, this is a Creative Grid again, and it has the surface on it here so that it doesn't move. So when you want to put your cutting edge down, you want to be sure that you put it so the majority of it is on the smooth part of your ruler. So just to have to do a little bit of juggling. It will stick, but it doesn't stick as well unless you're on the smooth part of your ruler. So the next piece of vinyl that I'm going to show you to help you with your accuracy is Sewing Edge. Both products are from Marcy Baker originally. Both are now distributed by C&T Publishing. So what this is it's a little layer of vinyl. This one does have an adhesive on the back of it, but the adhesive won't leave a residue on your sewing machine. On this machine, I can put my sewing edge here. On my other machine, my bobbin case is right here, and so I put it on the cover of my bobbin case. Where you want it to be is in front of your machine, or in front of your foot, so that you know that the fabric is going to feed in there correctly. Yes, I've got a 1/4 inch foot too, but a 1/4 inch foot, if you think about feeding fabric in there and watching the edge of your foot, I've gone off a little bit. Now I got to straighten it up, and so it's too late to correct it. So that's why you want it to be in front of your presser foot so that you go in accurately. So this, I've got a couple of different tools here that have 1/4 inch markings on them. And what you want to do is use your 1/4 inch. There's a number of different seam allowances, but I want the 1/4 inch, so I'm going to put my needle down slowly right in that hole. Then I put my presser foot down, make sure it's nice and straight, and then I'm going to put my sewing edge here. Now there is 5 pieces of it here, and the Ukrainian in me is only going to use 1/3 of this strip, so I'm going to cut it. And that's all that I really need to run my machine or run my fabric up against. So it's got an adhesive or a paper on the back and then an adhesive on that. It is removable and repositionable, but after a while it will get fuzzy and you'll need to replace it. So now I want to put that right up against my seam guide, and I want to stay on the table of the machine rather than going up here. You don't want to be anywhere near your feed dogs, and you don't want it to be somewhere that's going to have to be moved. If it is that you can only get a tiny piece on your bobbin case, you might want to put another piece in just a little bit in front of that, leaving the opening a separation. So that is this guide. This guide has a few more markings on it. So a number of markings from 1/8 of an inch to 2 inch. So anywhere in between, you could place this. And if you wanted to do a wider seam, or that was the width that you wanted, you could put your guide wherever it is. There's also a 1/4 inch mark here that gives you a crosshairs, which you could use if you're doing a corner or something that you want it to mark. There's a 45-degree angle on here, and a 5.5 inch and a 1.5 inch ruler. This is by Sew Emma. So there's 2 different guides, just depends what you want it for. This one I don't find I use for much other than this, but I always have it in my machine so that I can mark my 1/4 inch. So once that's on there, I'm going to just show you how you should be sewing with this. So I can put it down the end, and you can probably see that I've got some sewing done there already. And I'm going to sew without any thread, just so that I can just show you the method. So you want to put 3 fingers underneath your strip, 1 in between, your pointer in between, and your thumb on top of that, and that gives you a little bit of space here to manipulate the fabric. With your left hand, you want to line your fabrics up nicely right along the edge and run them along here. So now I'm going to use my left hand. My machine's going to tell me I have no bobbin thread because I don't. I'm going to use my left hand to just be sure that it is running right along there. And then I've got my other hand here that I'm not even sure if you can see, that is helping maneuver the fabric as it comes through. This hand holds the fabric and butts it against the edge of the cutting edge or sewing edge. A good test to check your accuracy is to sew some strips together. So I have 3 2-inch cuts that I've sewn together. I use my sewing edge, my cutting edge, then my sewing edge to sew the strips together. Then I press them, and then you want to measure. And you want to measure just to be sure that indeed your 1/4 inch is correct. And here you can see, when I hold it straight, that it is correct. You want to check in here, you want to check your outer edges, 1 3/4 each, and then this one is 1.5. So I know that my 1/4 inch is correct. Another thing that you can do if it is not correct is move your needle position on your machine. Every machine is different, and so you'll need to find out how you go about doing that on your machine, and you can move it to the left or to the right a little bit if you want to, or you move your sewing edge. Possibly you didn't put it up close enough, or you butted it up too close to the guide. The last piece of vinyl I'm going to show you is a clearly perfect angles. This is for creating 45-degree angles. This will save you time because you don't need to mark them. So when you get your piece of vinyl and it sticks again statically to your surface, all of these, or this in particular, sticks to a smooth surface. It works excellent with the Sew Steady tables. However, if you've got quite a bubbled, it may not stick to your machine. So remember that when you're, if you're going to purchase this. So originally this comes with a little piece, not like that, it's like this. It comes as a solid piece of vinyl. Right at the intersection there is where your needle belongs. So what you want to do is move your piece of vinyl so that it covers your feed dogs and it lines up perfectly. Put your needle down right in the hole. You want to make sure it's straight, and there's often lines on your machine that you can just compare to make sure that you are perfectly straight. Once you have it in the right place, you want to press it down, and then you want to use your seam ripper to cut away the vinyl that is going to interfere with your feed dogs. So you just hold this a little bit tight here, poke the seam ripper in there, and slide it along to the back. The same thing again, you go back this way, and this way. Then you want to take it away from your machine, and just with some sharp scissors to the point, you'll just clip off any little tails that you end up cutting or leaving when you use your seam ripper to cut. I was surprised how nicely that cut. And so what you want to do is just poke a little hole and then use the blade in your seam ripper to cut that. You make it fit to your machine. There's no need to keep this piece. Once you've cut it away, you can see now, I'm just placing this here, I can see that my needle is straight with this line, which is where it should be, and these lines match up parallel, so I've got it in the right place. So I want to press it down. And again, like the cutting edge, with the static cling, that if it is no longer sticking, it just needs a good clean with some soap and water. So what this tool works for is saving you all kinds of time when it comes to doing something that you need to mark corner to corner as you would if you're doing binding. So what I did was I put my binding strips over one another, leave a titch of a piece here and a piece here so that you can see exactly where you need to come in here. Now you want to put your needle down and you want to sew along there, and I've turned everything off so that you wouldn't have a glare, and so I won't be able to sew. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew along. I've got that in the right place. I can see here that this is in the right place, and as I sew, it will do that, and I can keep on the straight here. Then I know that I'm going all the way across. Then I haven't had to mark anything, and my binding is a nice straight strip. If you are doing flying geese with this method, and you've got one of the corners, you got your corners, you put them on, and then you need to sew from point to point. So again, you set it up, align your edges, put your presser foot down and your needle down, line the corner of this up with the line on here, the center line, and then as you sew, you can watch. Now, as you sew, these lines here are always keeping these straight. So you can always peek up to see that you're still going straight there, but the majority of it, you're going to be watching right here to make sure that you're going straight. Now, one more thing, if you wanted to do half squares, you're going to line your center line up on the one beside. The line, there's a gray line and a green line, and I'm going to want to line it up so that as I sew, my center point here is going to keep going along like this. That is going to make my straight seam here on one side of the center line. Then I want to do the other side. I'll use the green line. I line my square up nice and straight, and then I can sew here. And that is going to put my seams on either side. That all I now need to do is cut that in half, and I've got my 2 half squares. Well, I hope that I have shown you something valuable to make your quilting more accurate and then more successful.